Let her go. We are not paying for that surgery. That is what my father said to the doctor while I was in a coma with tubes down my throat and machines breathing for me. He signed the paper to let me die at 11:18 on a Tuesday night. Not because I was beyond saving, but because he did not want to pay the bill. The words came out in the same flat tone he used to cancel a magazine subscription. Then he walked out of the hospital without even glancing through the glass of my room. My name is Wendy Vance. People on the ward call me Winnie. I am 29 years old, and for the past 6 years, I have worked as a head trauma nurse in one of Chicago's busiest emergency rooms. Over the years, these hands have held dying strangers while their hearts gave out. Seeing human beings at their absolute worst became routine, but I never expected to be the one on the gurney while my own father signed away my life like it was an overdue parking ticket. He did not sign that paper because the doctors had given up. They told him there was a real chance. He signed it because to Samuel Vance, I had always been a line item that never turned a profit. In his mind, I had been draining the family treasury since the day I was born, and this was his chance to finally close the account. But here is the thing my father never understood about me. A nurse knows how to read a chart. A nurse knows where every document is filed, every timestamp logged, every signature recorded. An Vance woman, when she has been pushed far enough, knows exactly how to settle a score. Before we go any further, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe, that only if this story truly hits home. Now let me take you back to where the rot first started, to a kitchen table in Bronzeville, and a number that ruined my childhood. I was born with a hole in my heart, a ventricular septal defect. I was 4 years old when they cracked my tiny ribcage open at Lurie Children's Hospital and stitched the hole shut. The surgery saved my life, but the bill destroyed everything else. $214,000. That was the number. My father, Samuel Vance, patriarch of Vance Premier Properties and deacon at Greater Hope Baptist Church, turned that number into my identity. When he was angry, he never called me Winnie. To him, I was his $200,000 mistake. You know how much you cost this family, girl? $214,000. That is your tax. You are lucky we did not leave you on that operating table. The first time he said it, I was 7. All I had done was ask for new sneakers because mine were held together with duct tape and prayer. He was at the kitchen table with a tower of medical bills, a glass of bourbon in his hand, and a look in his eyes that could freeze Lake Michigan in July. Without a word, he slid the bill across the table and tapped the total with his index finger, as if he were showing me a report card full of Fs. I can still feel the cold of that kitchen tile under my bare feet. My mother had passed from an aneurysm when I was 3. Older sister Meredith, sitting right there at 11 years old, did not say a word. She just looked at me with that expression I would come to know so well over the years, a mixture of pity and relief, the look of someone watching lightning strike the house next door. Daddy, can I have money for dance camp this summer? Of course, baby. Anything for my star. That was the dynamic in the Vance household. Meredith asked and received. I existed and owed. By 18, I was working double shifts at a soul food diner on Cottage Grove to pay for nursing school, while Samuel threw Meredith a graduation party at the Drake Hotel and handed her the keys to a brand new Mercedes. I watched from the kitchen, still wearing my grease-stained apron. Winnie, come sit with me, baby. Yes, Grandma? You listen to me. You do not owe that man a dime, not 1 red cent. He is the one with the debt, you hear me? And one day, the bill is going to come due. Lillian was the only person in that family who saw me clearly. She was the only one who told me the truth. And on her deathbed, with her hand trembling in mine and her voice thin as tissue paper, she whispered a secret that would change everything. But I will get to that. First, let me tell you about the night they tried to let me die. 7 months after Grandma Lillian passed, I was driving home from a 16-hour overnight shift. The rain was biblical, the kind that turns Chicago streets into rivers and blurs the skyline into a grey watercolor. I remember looking at the clock on my dashboard. 4:17 in the morning. I was calculating whether I had enough time to sleep before my next shift. The last thought in my head was leftover gumbo in my fridge. That thought never finished. A black Escalade blew through a red light at 60 miles an hour near the Dan Ryan interchange. The impact folded my Honda like a crushed aluminium can. That sound is gone from my memory. All that remains is one flash of white light, and then nothing. Traumatic brain swelling, a ruptured spleen, 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding. The paramedics rushed me to St. Jude's, my own hospital. My co-workers cut off my scrubs. Deborah, my best friend, started the IV. They stabilized me, but the brain swelling required a second surgery that needed immediate family authorization. Because I was not married, the decision fell to my next of kin. He arrived at the hospital at 10:47 that evening. Not once did he go to my room. Not once did he ask the nurses if I was in pain or if I had opened my eyes. Instead, he walked directly to the administrator's office. What is the out-of-pocket going to run me on all this? After insurance, roughly $180,000, Miss Vance. $180,000. On top of everything else this girl has cost me. There are payment plans available, sir. Your daughter has excellent coverage through the hospital. I want the DNR paperwork. Sir, the surgical team believes there is a strong chance of recovery. Are you certain? Did I stutter? Bring me the form. At exactly 11:18 p.m., he signed the do not resuscitate order. Then he turned to Pat, my head nurse, a woman I had worked beside for 4 years, and said words she would later repeat under oath. That girl has been a financial drain on this family her entire life. It is time to cut our losses. He drove home to his 5-bedroom house in Hyde Park. Back in his recliner with 3 fingers of Woodford Reserve, he waited for the phone call telling him his youngest daughter was dead. But that call never came, because my father, in all his calculated cruelty, had overlooked one critical detail. Pat had been a nurse for 31 years. She had seen the predators before, the family members who showed up not to grieve, but to calculate. Samuel, she recognized the second he walked in, the polished shoes, the dry eyes, the questions about money before vitals. The moment Samuel left the building, Pat pulled my employee file from the hospital records department. Inside was a healthcare proxy I had signed 3 years earlier. The name on that form was not my father's, not Meredith's either. It was Deborah Collins, my best friend and fellow night shift warrior. Deborah, honey, I need you to get down here right now. Pat? What happened? Is Winnie okay? Her daddy just signed a DNR, but she named you as her healthcare proxy. You can override it. He did what? He signed a DNR on his own daughter. Get here now, Deborah, before the night shift changes and someone follows that order. Deborah arrived at 1 a.m., still in her pajamas, eyes swollen from crying. She revoked the DNR with a single signature and authorized the craniotomy. By 2:15 in the morning, I was in the operating room, fighting for my life one more time, while my father was at home, rehearsing what he would say at my funeral. But Samuel was not just waiting for me to die, he was already making plans for what came after. And that is where he made his second, far more dangerous mistake. Grandma Lillian was not a rich woman, but she was wise. She had watched her son-in-law transform into something cold and transactional, a man who weighed every relationship on a balance sheet. Before she died, she hired a lawyer named Donald Kessler and created an irrevocable trust, transferring her Bronzeville brownstone and $400,000 directly into my name. On her deathbed, Lillian pulled me close. Her hand was trembling, but her eyes were sharp as surgical steel. Winnie, baby, listen to me carefully. That man is going to try to take everything when I am gone. But I left you a house and money with a lawyer named Kessler. Donald Kessler. You call him when I am gone, Do not tell your father. Do not tell Meredith. Do you hear me? I hear you, Grandma. I promise. That house is yours. It has always been yours. And do not you dare let anyone tell you different. While I was in a coma, Samuel broke into my apartment. Inside my nightstand, he found the deed to the brownstone. What he did not know was that the trust had already transferred it to me. Using a notary named Gerald, a man who had rubber-stamped questionable documents for Vance Premier Properties for years, he forged my signature on a power of attorney. Within 72 hours, he mortgaged my house for $280,000 to cover his secret gambling debts at the riverboat casinos in Hammond, Indiana. Daddy, are you sure about this? What if she wakes up? She is not waking up, Meredith. I signed the DNR myself. Now help me find the rest of those papers. The notary wants $2,000 cash up front. Tell Gerald I will pay him when the mortgage clears. He knows I am good for it. He spent the money before my ventilator was removed. Meredith drove him to Gerald's office. She helped him find the deed. This was not mere complicity. This was partnership. What none of them knew was that Donald Kessler had built a fraud protection clause into the trust, and that failsafe was about to activate. I woke up on a Wednesday. The air felt like needles in my lungs. For a moment, I did not know if I was the nurse or the patient. Then the pain hit. A deep, rolling wave that started in my skull and crashed through every nerve in my body. The first face I saw was my father's. He leapt to his feet. The tears came instantly. It was the greatest acting performance I have ever witnessed. Oh, Winnie, my miracle baby. Thank you, Jesus. We almost lost you, sweetheart. I have been here every single day praying for you to come back to us. Thanks, Dad. I knew you would be here for me. He had visited exactly twice in 3 weeks. Both times to ask about my insurance status, but I did not say that. For the first time in 29 years, I did not see a father. I saw a defendant. Winnie! Oh my God, you are awake! I brought you flowers, girl. I have been so worried, you have no idea. They are beautiful, Meredith. You really did not have to. Of course I did. You are my little sister. Family is everything. Family is everything. She said it with a straight face. The same woman who had driven our father to forge my signature while I lay dying. I smiled and squeezed her hand. Let them believe the quiet daughter was grateful. That night, while the house slept, I locked myself in the bathroom and called Donald Kessler, with the faucet running to mask my voice. Mr. Kessler, this is Wendy Vance, Lillian's granddaughter. Wendy, thank God you are alive. I have been monitoring the property records. Your father transferred the brownstone 3 days after your surgery using a forged power of attorney. I know. Tell me everything. He has already taken a mortgage against the property, but the trust has a fraud protection clause. Any unauthorized transfer triggers an automatic audit. I have already flagged it with the title company. What do you need from me? Time. And every document you can get your hands on. Over the next 2 weeks, we gathered it all. The forged POA, the notary records, the hospital timestamps, the DNR with Samuel's signature, and Meredith's name on the car rental receipt from the night she drove him to Gerald's office. They thought the invisible daughter was recovering. She was. But she was also building a case that would burn their kingdom to the ground. Greater Hope Baptist Church sits on a corner in Chatham that has not changed in 50 years. Samuel Vance had been a deacon there for 22 years. He tithed generously, not because he loved God, but because he loved the way people looked at him when the pastor called his name. Every first Sunday, the church held a testimony feast, a potluck followed by an open mic session. It was his stage. That Sunday, over 200 people filled the fellowship hall. The tables were covered with aluminium pans of mac and cheese, collard greens, fried catfish, and sweet potato pie. It smelled like home and sounded like heaven. Samuel approached the microphone with his chest inflated and his Bible under his arm. I want to thank the Lord Almighty for a miracle in this family. Many of you know my baby girl Winnie was in a terrible accident. The doctors said, give up. But I stood by her bed and prayed until my knees were raw. And God heard me, church. God brought my baby back to us. Family is everything. The room erupted in amens. 200 pairs of hands clapping. Sister Turner was crying. Deacon Harris was on his feet. Then a figure appeared at the back of the hall, leaning on a cane, wearing a plain black dress with my head still bandaged. I walked slowly down the centre aisle. With every step, the clapping faded like a song losing its signal. Dad, can I share my testimony too? Samuel's smile flickered for 1 second, a crack in the mask only I could see, then returned, wider than before. He stepped aside, with no idea what was about to happen. Nobody in that room did. There was no waiting for permission. The microphone was mine now, and the manila folder was open. A particular kind of church silence fell over the room, the kind that comes when the spirit is about to move, though what moved through that hall was not the Holy Ghost. It was the truth. My father is right about one thing. There was a decision made at the hospital, but it was not a prayer. At 11:18 p.m. on a Tuesday, while I was fighting for my life with a machine breathing for me, this man signed a do not resuscitate order to let me die. Not because the doctors said there was no hope, because he did not want to pay the bill. I held up the hospital log with his signature and the timestamp. Every elder in the room leaned forward. Joy drained from their faces like a sunset collapsing into darkness. And while I was unconscious, he forged my signature, stole the house my grandmother left specifically to me, and mortgaged it for $280,000 to pay off his gambling debts at the Riverboat Casino in Hammond. My sister Meredith drove him to the notary. She helped him find the documents. She knew everything. The silence in that fellowship hall was heavier than concrete. You could hear the ice melting in the sweet tea pitchers. Winnie, you are confused. The medication has you all turned around. This is not the place for this. I am not confused, Dad. I am a nurse. I read charts for a living, and your chart is very, very clear. Then the side door opened. Donald Kessler walked in wearing a charcoal suit. He walked directly to Samuel, and in front of every elder, every neighbour, every person who had ever called that man a good man, he opened his briefcase and handed over a stack of legal summons. Mr. Vance, you have been served. Forgery in the first degree, mortgage fraud, grand larceny, and attempted insurance fraud. Meredith was already sliding toward the back exit, but Aunt Ruth, Lillian's sister, a woman built like a church bell and twice as loud, caught her by the arm. Sit down, girl. The truth is not finished with you yet. Samuel looked out at the congregation. Not admiration, not respect, disgust. Deacon Harris shook his head and walked out. Sister Turner followed. One by one they left, until Samuel stood alone in a room of empty chairs and uneaten sweet potato pie. His empire did not fall with a bang. It fell with the quiet shuffle of 200 pairs of shoes walking away. It took 48 hours for the Vance name to become a cautionary tale on the South Side. The bank froze the mortgage the moment they received the forgery report. Samuel sold his Hyde Park home to cover legal fees and restitution. The sale did not cover half of it. Meredith lost her real estate license when the fraud investigation hit the news on WGN. The Mercedes was repossessed. Every professional contact dropped her overnight. Winnie, please. I am your sister. Can we just talk? I know I messed up. I was scared of Daddy. You know how he is. Can you lend me something until I get back on my feet? Winnie, are you there? Those calls go unanswered. They probably always will. Samuel did not go to prison. Not yet. The case is still working through the Cook County courts, but he lost the only thing he ever truly loved. and it was not his daughters. It was his reputation. Greater Hope stripped him of his deacon title. The testimony feast invitations stopped coming. When he walks into a room in Chatham, people do not stand, they leave. I moved into Grandma Lillian's brownstone on King Drive. The first thing I did was fix the creaking porch swing she always said she would get around to fixing. I oiled the hinges, replaced the chain, and sat down on it for the first time as the owner of my own home. Every Saturday morning, I sit on that swing with a cup of coffee and watch the neighborhood come alive. The mailman waves. Kids across the street ride their bikes in circles. Old men at the barber shop argue about the bears. It is the most peaceful sound in the world. The sound of a life that finally belongs to me. People ask me if I will ever forgive my father. I tell them what I know from 6 years of emergency nursing. Some wounds are too deep for stitches. You do not try to close them. You keep them clean, you let them breathe, and you learn to live with the scar. That is not bitterness. That is survival. I am not the $214,000 mistake anymore. I am not the shadow daughter. I am Wendy Vance. I am a nurse. I am a homeowner. I am my grandmother's legacy. And my life, every breath of it, every heartbeat, every quiet Saturday morning on that porch swing, belongs to me. If this story resonated with you, if you have ever had to stand up to the people who were supposed to protect you, leave a comment below. Tell me, what was your 11:18 p.m. moment? And if you are still carrying someone else's debt on your shoulders, hear me. You are not a burden. You never were. The people who made you feel that way are the ones who should be paying. Subscribe for more stories of truth, survival, and justice from the Front Porch. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a single upload. I will see you in the next one.